If you've ever been written up on the job, you know that the write-up is a sign that things are not going well. While some write-ups are legitimate and are sincerely meant to help you improve, others are completely bogus and simply created to justify firing you. So from a legal perspective, how should you respond to a written warning at work? Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? The answer is yes, and this video will give you 12 recommendations on how to respond to a write-up. My name is Brannigan Robertson, and I'm an employment attorney. The 12 recommendations that I'm going to make in this video will help you respond to a write-up so that you can, number one, minimize the risk of being fired, and number two, legally protect yourself in case the company fires you in the future. But before we can get into any of that, we need to get three very important things out of the way. Number one, the amazing thing about YouTube is that we get to learn from each other. If you've been written up in the past, put your story in the comments section down below and describe what happened and tell us how it turned out. That way we can learn from your experience. Number two, the end of this video is the most important part. That's where I'm going to give the 12 recommendations that I have up on the whiteboard. But don't skip ahead to that. You need to watch the introductory parts of this video in order to understand why I'm making the recommendations that I'm making. Number three, I practice employment law in California. That's where I have my license to practice law. But this video isn't just for people in California. It's for everyone across America because most of the information that I share is not dependent on any particular law. However, this video is not legal advice for your situation. If you need legal advice, you need to call an employment lawyer in your state. However, and with that said, a write-up generally is not a serious enough situation to warrant calling an attorney. I personally don't give consultations to people who are just trying to get free advice on how to respond to a write-up. I would get 10,000 more calls a year than we already get. My office gives consultations to people who have been fired and the circumstances surrounding their termination seems unlawful. So if that's happened to you, feel free, and if you're in California, to call my office. Now, before you can properly respond to a write-up, you need to understand, number one, why managers give them out in the first place, and number two, what rules or laws, if any, do managers need to comply with when they write you up? Okay, let's start to get into it. Broadly speaking, I see three types of write-ups. Number one, type one, your manager genuinely wants to correct what he or she sees as problematic behavior. The write-up is meant to clearly identify what you did wrong so that you're aware of the problem and can take steps to fix it. Type two is your manager doesn't really want to fire you at the moment, but he or she wants to create a paper trail in case your performance issues get worse. Your manager may think that you're an aggressive or litigious person, and this is his or her way of protecting himself or herself and the company. Number three, your manager has already decided to fire you and is simply building a case to justify it. Well, okay, what rules, if any, do managers need to comply with when they write you up? Short answer is there almost no rules or regulations or laws that managers and companies need to comply with in the write-up process. A lot of people hear the term due process. Due process is the legal term kind of for fairness. And due process or fairness is not required. They don't have to follow a fair process. They don't have to do an investigation. They don't even have to be truthful when they write you up. With that said, when a company disciplines an employee the wrong way, they can get in a lot of trouble in the courtroom. And that brings us to the jury first perspective. And here is where you really need to start paying attention. When lawyers like me get involved in an employment matter, we look at everything through the lens of what would a jury think about this? A jury is usually 12 random people from your community. They don't care about you. They don't care about the company. They don't even want to be sitting in that jury box. But they are usually the final decision maker in employment matters that go to trial. Employment lawyers think that this jury-first perspective is key because it provides us with a more objective way to evaluate your behavior that precipitated the reprimand, the manager's write-up, and how you responded to it. And this is how you need to look at your situation. Did you do something wrong at work where a write-up is an appropriate response by the company? Would a jury think that the write-up is fair and appropriate? If so, your response should be dramatically different than if the inverse situation were the case, where you didn't do anything wrong and the write-up is completely ridiculous. On the one hand, a jury is not going to like it if you're hyper-aggressive. The jury is not going to like it if you threaten the company with legal action. The jury is not going to like it if it seems you're trying to manufacture yourself a lawsuit. On the other hand, the jury will like it if you seem like the reasonable person in the situation. The jury will like it if you take responsibility for genuine mistakes. The jury will like it if you make sincere efforts to improve, even if the write-up is bogus. So with this jury-first perspective in mind, we can move on to the 12 recommendations. When your manager pulls you into the office and starts to give you a write-up, here are my recommendations on how to respond. Number 1, you need to remain calm. I know this is easier said than done, especially when you believe that the write-up is completely ridiculous. But this is really important. You need to avoid crying or raising your voice or showing extreme distress. Number 2, you need to listen carefully and buy some time. Don't react right away. Be calm. You need to listen carefully and ask them to repeat, to give you a few extra seconds so that you can think. You should repeat the feedback back to them to ensure that you completely understand what they are saying. Do this without any hint of sarcasm or defiance. And then you should ask them if you can take a day or two so that you can respond as productively as possible. Number 3, you should ask questions and take notes. Ask lots of genuine questions without being passive-aggressive or sarcastic. That's not going to help. So when did you allegedly mess up? Who saw you make this mistake? What exactly are they accusing you of? If it's a vague accusation, ask for specific examples. And then you should also take notes. You'd be surprised at how much you'll forget after the fact if you don't take notes. If you can't take notes in the moment or you forgot a pad and paper, then right after the meeting, take some time and write everything down that you can remember. Number 4, do not leap to your own defense and say that others do this same thing and they're not getting written up. While it does matter, especially in a lawsuit, if other employees are doing the same bad thing that you did but are not getting written up for it, it looks terrible and childish if you immediately say this when they present you with a write-up. It is far more appropriate to politely point this out in your written response later, which we'll talk about in a minute. Number 5, do not make excuses. There will be a time for that in your written response, but don't do it right then and there when they tell you about their write-up. And 6, do not offer to quit. That is a really bad option for many legal reasons beyond the scope of this video. Along the same lines, don't offer to quit in exchange for severance. That is just as bad or even worse. Unfortunately, I don't have time to explain why in this video. Just know that threatening to quit or asking for severance is a terrible idea. Number 7, if they ask you for a response right then and there, ask for some time, like a day or two, so that you can have some time to think and reflect before responding. Number 8, if they ask you to sign some documents, find out what those documents are before you sign anything. If they're simply asking you to sign that's an acknowledgement that you received the write-up, then that generally isn't much of a problem. I generally tell people to write at the bottom of the write-up, if they're asking for a signature right then and there, I acknowledge that I received this document, and then sign it. On the other hand, if they're asking you to sign the write-up saying that you agree with it and their criticisms, then either don't sign it or write in, I do not agree with some of the comments here, but I acknowledge that I received this document, and then you can sign it. This approach is a lot better than simply refusing to sign the write-up, because refusing to sign it might be seen as insubordinate. And when employees are insubordinate, that often expedites their termination from the company. Okay, number 9, respond in writing. A written response is very important. If the company is targeting you because of some protected characteristic or protected activity that you've engaged in, it's very important that you complain about it in writing. If the company fires you after you've complained in writing, it's going to strengthen your case to have a written record of the thing that you complained about. That'll help a retaliation or wrongful termination case. So what should you say in your response, your written response? You want to focus on facts, not feelings. This is not the time to whine about your boss or air unrelated grievances. You should be specific about what is true and what is untrue in the write-up. If you have proof, attach it. If you have witnesses, list them. Just know that most of your coworkers will lie in order to save their job. No matter how much you think they're your friends, they have families and responsibilities too, and it's very difficult for them to go against the company. Your response should be relatively concise, 2 to 5 paragraphs max, in my opinion. Your response should be polite and professional, and for the love of Pete, please proofread it. Affirm your loyalty to the company as well, but protect yourself by documenting the circumstances in which you received the written warning. You should also review company policies on the subject before you start writing your response. If you didn't violate any company policies, then point it out. And if you feel like you're being targeted for an unlawful reason, such as your gender, race, disability, religion, or something like that, or that you're being targeted because you complained about something that's protected in the workplace, like workplace safety or patient safety, or you didn't want to violate some sort of law, then you absolutely should put that in your written response. Moreover, I think you should also watch my in-depth video on how to complain at work but not get retaliated against, as that video covers the right and wrong way to complain at work. I'll provide a link at the end of this video on how to do that. Number 10, it's really important not to talk to your coworkers about your write-up. This puts them in a very difficult position, and it's not going to help you at all. Number 11, very important. Fix the bloody problem. If the write-up is asking you to make more sales calls, then make more sales calls. If it's asking you to stop gossiping at the water cooler, then don't go anywhere near the water cooler. If your boss asks you to stop being insubordinate, then stop being insubordinate. On the other hand, a lot of write-ups that we see are very vague and difficult to comply with, if not impossible. That's why I also recommend that people follow up with their boss proactively and preferably in writing. Boss, how am I doing? Do you see some improvement from 2 weeks ago when you gave me the write-up? If not, how can I improve? If your boss responds favorably, then great. If he or she ignores your email, on the other hand, that might be a sign that they've already decided to fire you, or the boss is simply not willing to help you get better. Maybe they're even building a case to fire you. If that's the case, your time at the company might be coming to an end relatively quickly. Number 12, start looking for a new job. A warning doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be fired, but obviously it makes it more likely. You might as well start looking for a new job rather than wait. If things start to improve at work, then great, you can punt the job search. But it's really good to be proactive and get a head start on looking for a new job if you're starting to get signs that your time at the company is limited. I hope you found these 12 recommendations to be helpful. If most people responded to write-ups in this way, it would dramatically reduce the chance that they'll be fired. And in situations where the manager is breaking the law by disciplining someone because of a protected characteristic or because of a protected activity, this type of response will be very helpful in their lawsuit. Now, if you found this video interesting, you may also want to watch my video on how to complain at work without getting retaliated against. A link will pop up at the end of this video that will send you over to that one, so stay tuned for that. Once again, please don't call my office simply because you got written up. I made this video to reduce those types of phone calls to my firm. But if you worked in California and you got fired and you believe that the company somehow broke the law when they fired you, feel free to reach out to my office for a free consultation. That is all I have for you. I hope you have a fantastic day.